Good evening. Good evening. Nice to be back. Summer would have been a nicer time, however. All right, so I think I'm going to just jump right in. I just received a letter from my older brother, Mark, who wrote to announce that he had just decided to retire from Stanford University and go to work for Google, where he had spent the last 2 years on a leave of absence from the university, working primarily on the Google Glass project. We have any Google Glass wearers in the audience? All right. You have it with you? No. So he said that it was the single hardest decision of his life, and one that's irreversible. He cannot ever go back to being a professor at Stanford. And in the final analysis, though, he said he faced two inarguable truths. One is he was having more fun at Google, and two, he was enjoying just fresh challenge. And I'm impressed, particularly impressed, with the fact that his decision to leave the university was based largely on the desire to have more fun, which certainly is the basis for a momentous and irreversible life decision. Would almost seem to be a little frivolous, yet it's anything but, in my opinion. So his decision to leave a job that doesn't get much more prestigious or secure than a tenured professorship at Stanford, and for somebody as logical as he is, in order to have more fun, struck me as a profound validation of the importance of that precious commodity. And he said that one of the pivotal factors in his decision to leave the university was, of all things, a little newspaper clipping that I had sent him way back when he started it at Stanford. And it said, and which he said he had kept pinned to the center of his bulletin board ever since. And it said, how fossils are formed. Step 1, get tenure. Step 2, teach for 20 years. And he said that by the time I leave Stanford in a couple of years, it will have been exactly tenure plus 20 years. And thank you for sending me the clipping. Now, the philosopher Nietzsche was fond of encouraging people to live dangerously. He said, build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. Send your ships into uncharted seas. Now, this is a sentiment that looks great on a poster. But it's another matter entirely when we're talking about the lives of ordinary people, especially, I think, when what may be at stake is a regular paycheck, pension, medical benefits. Never mind that the only reason you're using the medical benefits is your job is making you sick. When what may be at stake is domestic tranquility, on the home front, or even just your physical safety, right? But this much, I think, is certain. The desire to have passion in your life, to say nothing of fun, it is joined at the hip with the desire for safety and security and a sense of control over our lives. And I think one of the high arts of living dangerously is continually refereeing the tug of war between passion and security. I once heard somebody say that heroism, or of course heroinism, can be redefined for the modern age as the ability to tolerate paradox, to hold two contrary or seemingly contrary forces, ideas, energies, impulses, beliefs, even beliefs inside you at the same time, and still retain the ability to function. To say nothing of hanging on to your cookies. And not everybody manages to hang on to their cookies. You know, I read a newspaper article just recently that described police being summoned to an apartment complex in Mesa, Arizona, after neighbors reported a fight between a man and a woman that included screaming and breaking things. But when they got there, all they found was a 21-year-old man simulating a fight between a man and a woman by alternating a high-pitched voice with a low-pitched voice. And I love that the article rather dryly noted that he was referred for a medical exam. Apparently, the inability to hold paradox was perhaps the least of his problems. But, and I had, just not long ago, I made a very revealing little Freudian slip that I think highlights some of the challenges of managing the tension between passion and security. I had gone on the road to do some adventure travel, to send my ships into uncharted seas, if you will, at a time when I had a whole lot of irons in the fire, a lot of business projects that I was in the middle of juggling, and I was apparently more stressed out about it than I was aware, because what I meant to say on the outgoing message of my answering machine was, "Hello, this is Gregg Levoy. I'll be out of the office until August 25th. But what I actually said, and didn't find out until I got home, was, "Hello, this is Gregg Levoy. I'll be out of control until August 25th. My general, which should probably explain some of the messages that I had waiting for me when I got home. You all right? But my general observation is that in the contest between passion and security, security tends to win. All right, doesn't that probably sound familiar? Security tends to win. Passion tends to get backburnered. Right? But if you're not expressing it somewhere or another, vocational or non-vocational, if you're not expressing it, then you're suppressing it or repressing it or depressing it, which all mean the same thing, pushing it down, right? And I think that this struggle is not just a personal issue. I think it's a collective issue, because I think we belong to a culture that likes its gates and its guardrails, that likes its bailouts and its subsidies, where schools eradicate playgrounds for insurance purposes, where manufacturers feel compelled to put warning labels on their products that say things like, "Caution, hot coffee is hot." Right? Or "Do not iron clothes on body." Or "This Superman costume does not enable you to fly." I'm not making these up. All right, here's my favorite one. "Remove children from stroller before folding up for storage." I mean, do we really need to be told this? You know, this is the state of things. Security at all costs. But I think that continually opting for comfort and security over passion, over enthusiasm, this is my opinion, whether it's in your work life or your love life or your creative life, will not, in my opinion, ever adequately compensate you for giving up your passions and selling your soul. Though it probably will allow you to suffer in nicer surroundings. Work off your frustrations with better recreational equipment or something, right? But the fact of the matter is, we don't just crave safety and security. Even in a code orange world, we also crave their opposite. We crave excitement and novelty and discovery and reverence and passion and an adrenaline rush and a locker at the bus station. You know, we like life to occasionally be unpredictable and full of surprises. We like to feel alive. And I think that we also intuitively know that being alive without feeling alive is like eating food with no taste to it. You know? So I've actually read that some people consider neurosis to be, the split between, the struggle and the split between two essential parts of ourselves. That's their definition of neurosis, is the struggle between two warring parts of ourselves. And ultimately they seem to come down to the natural self and the socialized self. You know what I'm saying? Who you were told to be, taught to be, and who you know yourself to be at some intuitive core level. And that struggle seems to be how they're defining neurosis. The part of you that likes the comforts of home, and the part of you that is always scratching at the back door wanting out. The part of us that's, if you will, wild, and the part that's domesticated, right? And I think most of us can probably appreciate the experience of feeling divided within ourselves, occasionally against ourselves, right? I had a college English professor once say that the basis of every story ever written or told could be summed up in one phrase: two worlds collide. Two worlds collide. And those two worlds don't cancel each other out. They're both true, I think. And they both need to be brought to the bargaining table to hammer out a treaty that's going to serve them both, rather than stuffing one or the other under the floorboards just to be rid of the tension. You know what I'm saying? Anybody here a dog owner? Dog owners? You'll probably recognize this. When you're playing a tug of war with a dog over like an old sneaker, and you let go of the sneaker, the dog doesn't generally run off with it, does he? Bury it in the backyard. He trots back to you with it because what he wants, or what she wants, isn't the sneaker. It's the tugging. The tugging, I think, is really where the spark is. Really where the spark is. And so, passion comes from a word that means to suffer. It comes from the passion of the Christ. Right? And suffer, by the way, comes from a word meaning to bear. So I think that if we're willing to bear the tug of war between the part of us that wants passion and the part that wants security, and in full consciousness, what I mean by that is all instruments turned on, I think we're going to probably make better decisions about how to manage them than if all the instruments are turned off and we're not paying attention. I think we're going to make better decisions and about how to manage the two. And by manage, partly what I mean is suffering creatively, not just neurotically. And suffering creatively means making it useful. Suffering that's ultimately useful, that leads to insights, that leads to change, that leads to solutions, right? So the word educate means to draw out. That's the etymology of the word, to draw out. I'm just saying, I'm suggesting to make it literal. Draw it out. Create pictures that capture the tension. Write about your conflicts between these two warring parts of yourself, assuming that they are. Talk it out. Play it up. You know what I'm saying? Plow it in and essentially use it to grow is really what I'm getting at. There is, I just read recently, there is a sect of people in Japan known as the Ainu, and they ritualize the proximity of the wild and the tame in us by keeping a fire pit in the center of their homes, positioned so that the sun streaming through the eastern window in the morning touches the fire. And what they say is that the sun goddess is visiting her sister, the fire goddess, and that you should not walk through the beams lest you break their contact. And I just love that as a